Hi, welcome back to the Primal Lifestyle, and I've got a fantastic guest today. She's on Facebook and she's known as the Keto Wang, but today we're going to know her as Elaina. Elaina, welcome to the channel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Right, well, Elaina, obviously we're introduced through mutual friend Kimmy, who I did an interview with not too long ago, and obviously I've been on your Facebook page and I'm really interested in your backstory. So, would you like to share with the people of the Primal Lifestyle your backstory and why you are where you are now and what you do?
Yeah, so my story goes back to childhood. So I was a very sick and morbidly obese child. So when I was like 8 years old, even, I was bigger than I am now. By 10, I was pushing 200 pounds. I was
Some images here.
obviously. Yeah,
So
that's
I just
that's me at about 8 years old. Look at that little chubby face, and my stomach was, it hung down my thighs, and there, I believe I was about. That was my very last school picture, so that would have been sixth grade. I don't know how
right,
old you are in the sixth grade anymore, but at that point, I had gotten so sick that I couldn't really make the attendance requirements for school because I was, missing so many days. And then here in the US, they have the Becca bill where the parents can actually get in trouble if the kids don't meet attendance requirements. So my mom had pulled me out of school at that point, and I just really just kept getting bigger and fatter. I ended up with mono twice, obviously severely insulin resistant by that age. I think in sixth grade you're like 12-ish.
mm,
So severely insulin resistant, probably type 2 diabetic at that point, but undiagnosed because they weren't testing kids for diabetes back then like they are now. And I just kept gaining weight. We were following the federal food program, is what it was called. My mom was an in-home childcare provider, and so she was bound by having the foods from the federal food program and the good old food pyramid. And now it's called My Plate, but that's what we had to follow in our home for the daycare. And so we ate the same. And my whole family, like, we suffered. We suffered big time. Obviously we had other habits that didn't help, like eating out, but that's just, that was the normal. That's what people did, and it was healthy. I remember my mom cooking all of this like chicken and rice, and we had I can't believe it's not butter and milk. I am pretty sure I was addicted to milk. That was probably my first addiction ever. So my mom had to serve, like 8 glasses of milk to the children throughout the day. And so we constantly had like 10 gallons of milk out in our refrigerator outdoors. And so
mm-hmm.
I would just start chugging this milk. I didn't drink any water. My mom was like, drink some water. And I'm like, I don't like water, And so I would just like chug the milk. And I worked my way up to drinking like a gallon of 2% milk every day. So
Wow.
that's probably what my first addiction actually was, but I was just so young, we weren't looking at addictions at that point. And of course, the sugar and the cookies, all of the fruit, all of the canned fruit, especially pineapple. I loved having pineapple, and I would just like chug the juice out of it, which at that point it wasn't even juice, it was high fructose corn syrup. And I
Yeah.
remember joking when I was a kid, like, oh, if I could just live off of fruit, I would be a fruitarian, which is actually a thing now, but it wasn't a
Yeah.
thing then. And luckily, my mom was not supporting that. She still fed us meat, of course. So at about, let's see, I was pulled out of school when I was about 12. So that was sixth grade was the last year. Just kind of floated around, got sick. I had gallbladder issues. So 2 years I spent having gallbladder attacks. And they weren't looking for that because I was so young. So I every time I would eat, I would actually end up throwing up because I was in so much pain. And I was, of course, morbidly obese. And so I went to the doctors and they were trying to figure it out, but they never thought about the gallbladder, never did an ultrasound or anything. And I made the mistake one day of telling a doctor that when I would eat, I would throw up because then it wouldn't hurt anymore. And because of my obesity, they automatically told my mom that I was depressed and I was bulimic. And they prescribed me Prozac. And my mom wouldn't let me take it. She was like, my child is not depressed. I was a very happy kid, regardless of the weight and the health issues, and I was very positive about my life. My mom's like, absolutely not. We're not taking the Prozac. So we just left it at the drugstore, basically. And I ended up going into the emergency room almost every night for 2 years after dinner, where they would give like Demerol and Finagrin to get me out of pain. And
Hmm.
then one night there was a nurse, it was really quiet, and she was like, let's just do an ultrasound. And that night after the ultrasound, they admitted me to the hospital, and I was rushed into an emergency surgery within a day and had my gallbladder removed.
Wow.
The
Wow.
bulimia magically went away. Like that was it. It was gone. So that was a lot of fun. But then I started binge eating. So because I couldn't really eat a lot without being in pain, I did lose some weight at that point, but it was more like starvation than being healthy. And when I started binge eating, my mom, like, what is she gonna do? She had watched me suffer for a couple of years without being able to eat, so she let me eat, and I gained probably 100 pounds, like rapidly. I'd say within 6 months easily. I remember getting so big so quick. And it was not long after that. So I was feeling pretty good, but I was obviously sick, probably for sure diabetic at that point, insulin resistant, and very low energy. And I was a teenager then. So that was about 15, and started doing teenager things, and I ended up trying meth for the first time and was instantly hooked on meth. So if you're not familiar with meth, it gives you a lot of energy, a hyper focus. It's kind of amazing. Now that I'm clean and I've been keto for so long, it's almost like ketosis on steroids. It's crazy. And you can stay up for days and days at a time. Well, because I was so sick as a kid, I never really had that energy as a kid. I was sleeping a lot, home a lot, and so it was just like instant hooked. And I did that for 15 years. It was a daily habit. And when I would start to come down, I would binge on sugar because sugar hits those same receptors in your brain and it makes you want to keep
Hmm.
going. Well, because I was diabetic, I never lost weight. So I wasn't a skinny tweaker. I was a tweaker that was like over 200 pounds. And that was my excuse, It was like, I'm not a tweaker. I'm too fat to be a tweaker. That worked beautifully.
It's interesting because you talked about the addiction with the milk, you talked about the addiction with the meth, and you talk about the addiction with sugar. All three of those are plant based. And I don't think I did a thing about the five addictions, the main five addictions: tobacco, alcohol, sugar, and the others, and they're all plant based. So it's interesting that the three addictions you've identified are also all plant based addictions.
That's a fascinating perspective that I never even considered it. That's crazy. But you're not wrong there. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I did
we think.
smoke, so I was also addicted to tobacco. I've been a drinker too. I'm really good at addictions. Super good.
So you're quite because they say that within your genetics. I mean, Kimmy mentioned that genetically you can be prone to becoming an addict before you've even got started, and it's the environment you're in kind of triggers that. So that seems to be where you were at. So you've got to this place. So you obviously you say you stayed with meth for a serious period of time, and thank God you've come through it fine. So what brought you to making the changes? What happened that made you suddenly think this is not right?
Well, I was raised better than that. I knew better, and I knew that I came from some strong addiction genetics. I'm the only Wang is my last name, and that's my maiden last name. Got it from my dad. It's very unique because I'm not Asian. So I always joke that even when I got married, I can't give up my Wang. It's very unique to me. So that's also where Keto Wang comes from. But yeah, so they're all addicts. I am the only one that I truly know of that has made it completely out of all of the addictions: the alcohol, the tobacco, the hard drugs. And I can thank my mom for that. So she really inspired me to want to do better. And we didn't have a good relationship towards the end of my drug addiction. So that was from 15 years old to 30. And I was really reaching a point where I knew that I could do better. And I was like, I've made it to 30 years old. Like, I didn't even imagine I would make it to 30. Like, that blew my mind. And I'm like, I kind of miss my mom, having a relationship. I kind of miss, what I know life could be, because I've always been a very happy and bubbly and sparkly person. And I want to do all the things, and I want to travel, and I want to live a life. And I can't do that as an addict. And then my husband, so he was kind of reaching a breaking point where I think he was pretty much over it. And I could tell that he was pretty much over it, but he was still around and participating because that's what I was doing. I also feared losing him because he, at the time, was not an American citizen. He was a citizen of England. And he had a green card issue, of course, but he was living here legally. He was working, paying into the social security system, all that stuff. It wasn't like he was hiding out. But because of the green card issue, if he would have gotten caught in any of those situations, he would have been deported, and that would have been the end of it, like the total end of it. And I'm pretty sure with how England views things like meth, it probably would have destroyed his life there too.
Yeah.
So, not really a cool situation. And the cops were following around the drug dealer, and they had, they knew we were involved. I even got investigated by the FBI one time. That was, kind of like extreme. So I knew I was pushing my luck. And I had a choice that I could either like completely destroy my life or completely change it.
Okay, well, not. I haven't spoken to anyone before that's been on FBI files, so well done you. That's your first panel on that front. So, you decided to make the change. What did you do? How did you discover the keto, or what was the pathway for you?
So it was like, okay, so the drug dealer went to jail, and we're like, okay, let's just quit. Let's just quit. Let's just stop and change our life. I went to sleep for one because I was really good at staying awake. I think the longest that I had ever stayed awake consecutively was like 2 weeks straight. And that's not okay. It's really not. So I went to sleep, and then I was binge eating when I would wake up. I would wake up, go pee, and binge eat honey buns. So those stupid honey buns in the box, I could eat an entire box of those all at once. And
Wow.
smoking a lot of cigarettes. So at some point, mid addiction, when I was about 24, was when I got the official diabetes diagnosis. And I ignored it because when you're high, you really don't care if you have diabetes, it doesn't matter. And after about a month of like constant sleeping and just trying to get my brain trying to function, I woke up and I was like, okay, so what are we going to do with life now, And I had started considering, well, what about that diabetes diagnosis? I was back to eating every day because when you use meth, you don't eat every day. It's not important, and you're not hungry. And I was eating meals and then eating ice cream. I made a post on Facebook one night, and I was like, so I know that I am diabetic and we've been having ice cream, but I haven't checked my blood sugar in years. So, like, what do you think is better? The chemical filled, no sugar ice cream? Because back then we didn't have things like Rebel and all those brands, or the sugary stuff. And somebody told me that I should really just check my blood sugar. And I did. I got a meter that night, ordered it on the internet, had it delivered, and my blood sugar, the very first test, was 426. And that was
What?
super eye opening. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure at that point, like, I was definitely over 300 pounds. I don't know how far over, but I was over 300 pounds. I was at the biggest I had ever been. I was smoking cigarettes like crazy and eating the sugar like crazy. And then I was like, well, shit, now what? My blood sugar is over 400. I did not get clean just to die of diabetes. And I started looking around online And I was in an essential oil group, and they recommended me to a Facebook group that was keto for diabetes, basically. That's not the name of the group. The original group doesn't exist. I don't know what's going to happen if you go look for the name of that group.
Okay.
But yeah, I went in there and it was amazing. I was seeing the results. I was scared to go to the doctors because although I wasn't an IV drug user, needles are something that I've always loved. Like tattoos are a whole nother addiction of mine. And I knew that if I went to the doctor, they would give me insulin, and insulin meant an unlimited supply of needles. And I just knew that that would take me out. Like I would just end up using. So I didn't want to do that. I spent 4 months trying to just learn about my blood sugar, obsessively testing, like insane amounts of testing every single day. Like I was easily testing my blood sugar over 10 times a day, just figuring out what did what. And immediately just went to the super strict 20 grams of carbs or less. My husband, like he supported me through all of this. He's amazing. I never got the pushback from him. He was just like, well, whatever, you know, you're going to do what you're going to do. And I started walking a little bit, going outside. I had to take care of warrants first. I didn't leave my my trailer in Washington, was where we were then, for 2 years because I had warrants for my arrest. And I was afraid if I went outside, they would arrest me. So
Wow.
my mom took me to the courthouse one day. I told her, I was like, I want to take care of this. Like, I'm done. And I literally walked in when court was in session with my mom and was like, I'm sorry. I'm clean now. You know, I fucked up. Instead of arresting me, they went ahead and put me on a deferred agreement, and my mom paid the fines for me, and we got rid of the warrants. And
Oh, well done.
never had to spend any time in jail. And the judge was like, thank you for being honest. So that was really cool. But then I was able to go outside and start walking, and that was really powerful. So the food alone really started to lower my blood sugar, but it just wasn't enough, and I obviously needed more. It took me a year to get my blood sugar under 120. And so
Mhm.
that was kind of nuts. You know, I see, like, especially with clients, I'm a coach now, and with clients, I see their blood sugar improve pretty rapidly compared to what mine was. And I try to remind them, I'm like, hey, you know, not everybody has it that easy. Some of us have to spend a year just trying to gain some control over our numbers. You know, you need to be grateful for your body instead of trying to force it to do something quicker, because we're doing hard things. You know, this sort of healing is not easy. This is hard stuff. But the walking helped. I learned that when I would light a cigarette, it didn't matter if I smoked the whole cigarette or just took the first puff, it spiked my blood sugar over 40 points. And that
Wow.
inspired me to quit smoking cigarettes. So I went cold turkey. I was like, okay, done with that. That was hard too. So I quit a lot of stuff within 6 months' time. It was 2014. I quit using meth. I quit using sugar. I quit drinking soda. And when I was drinking soda, I was drinking it by the 2 liter and just chugging it. I gave up the carbs. I gave up the cigarettes. And it was pretty amazing 6 months that was. And then I started walking. So my first goal, I wanted to walk up this hill, and it was crazy because like I would go in this, I lived in an orchard area, and I would walk in the back of the orchard. There's this little itty bitty incline, and I was just like out of breath on that incline. And I had a goal that I was going to walk up the side of this hill on a trail by the end of the summer. And I totally crushed that. That was amazing. But not until I quit smoking.
Right. So you set yourself little goals to achieve. Do you think that's a good thing for people? Obviously, you mentioned we'll talk about your coaching side of it in a minute, but is that the kind of thing you set as tasks for people rather than trying to see the big end game, but to set yourself small challenges to conquer? Or
Yeah, so small challenges are really important in the moment. And I also think it really depends on the personality. So for my type of personality, I need a big picture. I need a big goal. Like I need to be like, okay, so I'm going to turn my entire life upside down right now so that 10 years from now I can be in this place. But in order to do that, I have to take these little steps. So I like, you know, for me, having that big end goal really works out, but I do have to have the small ones.
so you discovered keto, you started exercising, you started improving your blood sugars. So what stopped you from for did you have any times where you fell to the wayside, slipped up, and went back on the sugar or the not the meth, hopefully, but all the other addictions?
We only relapsed on meth one time when the drug dealer got out of jail. We both felt like shit for doing it, and then we never relapsed again. I'll throw that out there. But the sugars, so it was really funny because I was trying to, of course, bargain with myself. Humans are really good at bargaining, especially addicts. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have one Reese's peanut butter cup every night if I don't have any other sugar all day. And I think I did that for like the first like month or two before I gave that up because I was like, okay, this really isn't serving me. I never slipped back into the standard diet, which is amazing. Now, I have, so over the years, things have evolved. There are some days now, especially around my cycle, because I have a very healthy hormone cycle, and like 10 days out before my period, I will have more carbs, but that's not in the form of any junk food. So, my favorite thing is like roasted beets. I like roasted beets or a little bit of sweet potato. But back when I first started, that would have been impossible because it would have shot my blood sugar completely out of control. That's more of a more recent thing in the last year or two. I really so I never really went back. I mean, there was different versions that I've done over the years as I've learned. Also, keto has evolved massively with what we've learned and what we've discovered in the last decade. I was doing way too low of protein when I first started, and now I know better than that. But yeah, I didn't want to go back. I also feel this was a really important thing that the ketones help my brain heal. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago I learned the term neuroplasticity. So when we get rid of all the inflammation in our bodies and our brain, and then we're actually going to sleep at night and having a good restful sleep, it allows our brain to rewire those pathways. And so we can create these new habits and create an entire new life just by lowering inflammation and going to sleep. And I think that that was a big factor in why I ended up not going back. I got rid of so much toxicity all at once and it just rewired my whole life.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing story. So you've done all that. You've obviously conquered a lot of challenges and successfully got there. So what took you into doing the coaching? What I take it you had to qualify to a certain degree on the nutritional front. So what was your pathway on that front?
So I was online obsessively helping other diabetics get started. When I immersed myself big time. I became obsessed. I wasn't working or anything. I was in front of my computer all of the time. And after I got myself taken care of, I was in all of the Facebook groups and really helping people to get their blood sugar under control naturally without, having to take all the meds, and helping some type 2 diabetics come off of insulin, reverse insulin resistance, all of this crazy stuff that they say is impossible to do. And I got noticed by some other coaches, and they had asked me if I would be interested in joining the team because they were growing their team. And it was like a dream come true. Like I knew, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And that was about 8 years ago now, maybe nine.
It's
And I just
incredible.
jumped in. Yeah. So now I do have education now. At the time, it was all experience, but now I am a nutritional therapy practitioner through the NTA. And then I got a certified nutrition coach certificate thing from NASM, but I didn't pay the $50 to keep that up to date. So it's expired. And then I'm an integrative medicine practitioner for PTSD and complex trauma through Dr. Leslie Korn. I went ahead and did that because of, you don't come out of such severe addictions without some trauma. And I've found that my journey to healing also included healing like a lot of trauma. And so I find a lot of my clients that are attracted to me are trauma victims. And so I wanted to be able to bring that aspect in to truly help them to fully heal, because you can't heal your body from diabetes or any other disease if you're still suffering with trauma internally. There's a good book on that called The Body Keeps Score. I love that book.
Okay, that's interesting. So that's a really valid point there because I mean my journey's a tad shorter than yours in that respect. I became morbidly obese. I was pre-diabetic. I was having all sorts of issues. I ended up with skin cancer. And it was then when I had the wake up call and jumped on YouTube to try and find solutions because I didn't want to do the drug, the medical prescribed drug side of it, statins and that. Found, tried veganism. It helped me lose a little bit of weight, but I was constantly hungry the whole time. Went into the carnivore side of it, went quite strict on carnivore, and bang, things just got so much better. I'm now between, well, I go from one extreme to the other now. I eat raw meat. I quite like the raw meat diet, but I don't do it fully. I do like a sear on my steak occasionally and things like that. But I'm also starting to drift into the keto zone because now I've got to that weight I want to be. I've got all my meds and results of where I want them to be. So I want to open up, and that's why originally the channel was the Carnivore Nation because I was all carnivore, carnivore, carnivore. And then I actually realized there's a bigger world in that diet, and that's why I switched to the Primal Lifestyle because I want to engage with paleo and keto. And we'll talk about it in a little while, your fan club of vegans that you have, because I want to engage with vegans as well. I think vegans and carnivores and keto and all that, we're all on the same page. We want to get away from the ultra processed and the hidden sugars and the oils. It's just in which direction you want to go in and which works for you. So any vegans watching, contact me. I'd love to have an interview with you, and I think we'd have a good open debate on that front without being contentious. But we'll go into that in a little while. But obviously, you've obviously then got the qualifications and all that, and I think you're right in what you say about the experience is far more superior than what you'll read in the textbook because you are relatable. People can relate. People that you say you're talking to are in where you have been at some stage, and therefore it gives them the confidence to go forward. So, round of applause for you for that. So, talk us a bit about your coaching side without breaching any confidentiality with your clients, etc. What's for people that are watching this and they think, oh, this might be something I'm interested in. Take me through what you bring to the table for them.
So I am the head of the Hack Your Health coaching team. Like, there's a plug there for Hack Your Health. Hack Your Health also has the conference. It's like one of the bigger conferences in the United States. It used to be known as KetoCon, and we went from KetoCon to Hack Your Health in the recent years, and also with our coaching program. So what I do with clients, especially nowadays, now my coaching has evolved as I learn and grow. And I think that growth is always important. We can't stay stuck in our ways forever. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, and it's okay to grow from that. I take clients through a full nutritional assessment. It's very in-depth nutritional assessment that generates this really awesome little graph that I go over, and we find where the body's foundations need the most support. So you have to support your body's foundations in order for the body to truly heal. Most people hyper focus on blood sugar or weight loss or the metabolic aspect, but you cannot actually fix any of these problems if you're not truly healing your body. So we look at the body's foundations, we support the body as needed. I'm not really super big into supplements. I really like to go the nutritional route, except for magnesium. I think everybody should be taking magnesium. But we do get into supplements, when there is a gap in the nutrition where it's needed and to really support the body so that it can heal. And we've come up with a plan based on that. So, keto is my core and keto is my life, and keto literally saved my life. But when it comes to my coaching, I have kind of ripped away the diet labels. So I have found that the diet labels are becoming very toxic, especially in the social media environment, as you've seen from my vegan friends. And I had a situation one time where I was at an event and there was a carnivore lady, sweet lady, amazing person, very true to herself and her lifestyle. And she was afraid that people would judge her for eating a mushroom that night at that dinner. And that was eye-opening for me. I was like, this isn't okay. Like, it's not okay. We cannot be like this towards each other. People cannot judge her as a carnivore eating like a grilled mushroom at a dinner. It's not cool. And so that's when I decided to take the diet labels out and get people on real whole food diets that match their lifestyle. So, clients that come to me and they're like, well, I don't want to do keto because they have this idea of what keto is. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to do keto. So we go through the assessment, we really find the plan and tweak the macros, find whatever works for them. And eventually, most of them end up doing some form of keto or low carb anyway.
I always say to people, the people that slip and whatever, there are no carnivore police. They are not going to come knocking on your door and drag you out because you've bent the rules or you've slipped. It's the way it is. But it is like whole single ingredient foods, and that's why I like the primal point of view that we go down now, because it covers different people have got different needs. People have got different allergies. Some people can't deal with eggs. Some people can't deal with egg whites or egg yolks. And it's not about you have to do this. And if you don't do this, you break the rules and you're not that. And I found part of the carnivore community, you get these people that are devout carnivores. And if you do something slightly out of the ordinary, you're not carnivore. Ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's about, as you say, listen to your body. Your body will tell you what it needs, and it's down to you to service that need. You know.
Exactly. And it's not cool to judge somebody else based on their plate. You don't know anything about that person.
Yeah.
I think the only people that should be judging anybody is like if my clients are sending me a picture of their food, some of them do that instead of tracking macros, and I will give them feedback based on that. Now, if you're not in a working relationship like that, then you really just need to like stop talking about people's plates.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah, it's unfortunately you're right. Certain diets has become tribal, and they defend with passion. And as we'll touch upon, because obviously I've been on your Facebook a little while now, and I've seen that you've got a few vegans that just want to attack, and I
Yeah.
don't understand why they feel the need to do that, because at the end of the day, you're not knocking their veganism.
No, and I'm not on their page either, and I tell them all, you will not catch me on any of your pages doing this. Like, and I quit reading their comments because they get hateful and they always tell me, they love to tell me to eat my dogs. I'm like, you guys are so weird. I'm like, so what I say is, hey, if the world ends and, I run out of meat and it's me and my little dogs and, I'm not going to die and leave my little dogs behind. So there's that, and then they're like, oh, you should like kill them and eat them right now. And I'm like, you guys are just so weird. Why are you obsessed with me?
See, it's interesting because I did Dawn, who's a green witch I interviewed recently, and she was talking about the fact that she found the carnivore community very friendly, very happy, and all that, not aggressive. Where the vegan community, it's almost got a chip on their shoulder. They're almost like, oh, you've got to do what we tell you to do and stop doing. I don't get it. Chill out. Enjoy your lifestyle. If that's what works for you, do it.
Yeah. And I have some amazing vegan friends. I have one of them, especially. I don't know if she'll watch this, but if you do, shout out to you, Sarah. She's in Canada and I love her. And we've been friends for years. I was actually friends with her on Facebook before I ever got clean, before I ever went keto. She has watched my journey. And she is vegan because her body, she has some health issues that she literally cannot digest the meat. So she's not doing it because she's vegan obsessive. And I'll just say that we have sat at the same table multiple times and ate together, and we're fine. We love each other. Like, we are totally fine. So it is possible for vegans and carnivores to love each other if they just let go of the hate.
Yeah, it absolutely seemed crazy. So your Facebook page, I've noticed you've got something in the region of 13,000 followers. So it's quite an audience you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So and you post very regularly, I've noticed as well. So you're very informative and all that side of it. So I will put a link to your Facebook page in the content of this. So people, if they want to follow it through, they can find you and chat with you. Before we wrap up, is there any key message you want to put out there? Anything you want to say? Because your story is mind blowing from where you came from to where you are now, amazing, absolutely amazing.
I mean, just don't give up. Don't give up, and don't, when things stop working, change them. Learn, grow, change. We are meant to change. I mean, somewhere along the line in my 10 years, I ended up started drinking, and I was drinking vodka because vodka is keto. And so I picked up alcohol. Of course, I ended up addicted. I'm addicted to like anything you can get addicted to. I'm just that good at it, except for gambling because I live in Las Vegas. Won't do that. So, I picked up the vodka and I ended up drinking to the point where I was in the hospital for a week with pancreatitis. And then I quit drinking. And that was back in 2021 that I had completely given up alcohol. So, like, you're going to experience ups and downs in your journey. Like, things are going to happen. That's just life. Don't let something that happens completely derail you. I use that as more motivation to become an even healthier version of myself. I was like, okay, so we're done with that now. Now let's just kill it. And then I moved on. So my most recent obsession is peptides. And that's another very controversial thing, especially in these keto and carnivore worlds. People are like, oh, peptides, that's just an easy fix, an easy way out. Well, peptides are an amazing tool when they're used properly. I don't recommend people go to their doctor, get the max dose of Ozempic, throw up, disable their digestive system, and not be able to function. That is not peptides done right. There's this whole other world where people are learning and growing, and they're amazing. So keep learning, keep growing, and don't let biases block your vision. Don't see something on the internet and be like, okay, well, I saw this thing, that must be right. Like, question everything and always learn. I think the best thing that I have ever done for myself is constantly learning, constantly growing, and I constantly keep an open mind. Just like the vegans out there attacking my page, like, hey guys, I can't be a vegan. I am a type 2 diabetic, and there is no chance that eating all of those carbohydrates are going to help my blood sugar, especially day in and day out, especially when it took a keto and carnivore lifestyle to get it back under control. My body is not your body. Like, shout out to you. Keep doing it if you feel good, but keep an open mind, learn, grow, play. And like, quit being so close minded. I guess that's the gist of that.
That's absolutely brilliant advice. Well done. So you are living proof, like Kimmy was, that you can go through hell, you can have all these challenges, and you can still come out the other side doing well. So well done, you. Really, and it's been awesome. And one of the things I'll think of doing, and I'll check with Kimmy the next time I speak to her, that perhaps we'll get you both on at the same time and get you talking more, because I think the area of addiction, when people think of addict, sadly, people kind of think, well, that's it, they're done, they've spent the rubbish. They don't see that there is the ability to come back and make your lives good again. So I wouldn't mind doing a special around addiction with yourselves, with both of you on there. So we'll get that set up. But Elaina, you're an absolute star, and you're a ball of energy, and I'll take it that's all down to your diet. So superb. Thank you very much for your time. So anyone watching this, I'll put the links to so you can find our wonderful Keto Wang on Facebook, and stay carnivore.
Thank you.